All right. Greetings. Welcome everyone. Know this video is gonna be I'm returning, why I'm back, and the reason as to why I'm returning. But first, before we get started, welcome to Dorsey's Resource. I'm going to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the information being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my opinions on the topic being discussed. With that being said, all rights are reserved. I want to thank you all. I know it's been a minute. Maybe it was too good to be true. Some of you all may have thought, was I leaving YouTube for good? I wasn't really sure, but what I can say, I want to give you guys a little update and maybe go over as the reason why I'm returning. I know this video is kind of late, but as you guys know, I've mentioned in the past, I re-uploaded a lot of my videos. I was deciding to just leave a majority deleted, but I wasn't going to do that. I just decided I had set them all to private for that time being that I was gone. But they are available if you click on the links and stuff, and I reactivated my post, by the way. But one of the reasons I was considering returning to that operation that I was part of, I'm going to kind of speak in cryptic code. Some of you all know that what I'm talking about. We only have a few people in the chat. We may not get a lot because it is real late. I want to say the time now. See what my Fitbit says. It's 3:05 a.m. October 4th, my time on Eastern Standard Time. By the way, I'm at the plantation, of course, but there's reasons don't, have my uniform under. So just FYI, but you guys know. But the reason I'm coming back is I was contemplating, number one, on signing a non-disclosure agreement. I'm real particular about those. I want to assure you all that the information that I've discussed in the past previously is not conspiracy theory. No matter what you may have heard, conjecture out there from other individuals, rumors, I want you to understand that my information is totally accurate and on point. Alan Michael, thank you for joining in the chat. He says, you're back. Cool. Appreciate you. First person. I noticed there was some people who had just recently subscribed. It appeared like I had about over 40 subscribers dropped off, so I'm still at over 6,200. I tried to deactivate the page, but I didn't totally deactivate it. I guess YouTube gives you the option. I almost actually deleted all of the videos, just to let you guys know, by the way, and I was part of I'm going to go over once again. I appreciate my sources out there that I have, everybody, different people that relay me information. But I want to assure you all once again, despite there's gatekeepers and trolls that have come out, and with all the censorship that's going on with YouTube, a lot of content creators have already left YouTube, and I plan on going elsewhere the same, where YouTube will not be the only platform that I'm on, and there will be other ways to get information out if I decide to permanently come back. But it was recommended that I go to Patreon, and I want to give a big shout out to Currency 365 for sharing my videos. I want you guys to know I follow him in the past. I was asked by previous subscribers when I used to do a lot of videos on the dinar. It's the reason I stopped doing videos about that and paying attention to what's going on. But I had always been subscribed to Currency 365 for a while, and I didn't know till like a couple weeks ago, a good friend of mine who follows my work and has for some time, told me that he had did a video while I was going dark in response to that last video that I did and what was going on. I appreciate that, and that almost really gave me some encouragement, and I had been contemplating on moving to Patreon, because I want to assure you guys this information I've discussed is very, very real. And I think just to recap, I see Camilla Barnes in the chat. Good morning. Greetings to you, Camilla Barnes. It's been a minute. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining as well. And but to get back on topic, I think a couple years ago, if you guys remember that movement that broke out, the TDA accounts, I want to show you all once again, those accounts were real. I do have documentation, whether people believe me or you know, what they decide to believe, it was real. And like Harvey said with his channel, it's not about if the accounts, the reversals, but it's about the accounts were real. You know, there's things that I could show. I actually met, I won't say the name, but I was contemplating, of course, I mentioned in the past, I was very frustrated about that organization that I attended some years back. I expressed my discontent, but at the same time, I do understand where they're coming from. And the first go around, when I was first part of that, I'm kind of speaking in code. I want to reiterate, I did follow all the rules to the T, as much as possible. There was some years ago on a particular conference call we had, I had a particular question that involved the previous person in administration. It was a sincere question, and I was not trying to stir up any controversy or anything behind it. And at the time, I did not belong to any organizations, because it was brought up at the time to not join any organizations or belong to any. The only organizations I belong to are a couple Facebook groups I mentioned to some subscribers and people that I know, but I don't have an official card carrying membership. One of these organizations is on meetup.com. The other one isn't, because you have to pay, I guess, a certain amount per month. The other organization is pretty huge, and I won't get into all of that, but it's very minute. It's like extracurricular activities that I'm into, but some of it involves some educational things that gets into some important stuff. But that's neither here nor there for the time being. I just am sharing that to show you all I'm transparent with you all, with my subscriber base. I appreciate my main base, my fans out there that have followed me and continue to follow me, who have shared my videos and continue doing so. And I even, before I even went down the first time, I even said, gave you guys a heads up, a warning by doing that last video to show you guys how transparent I am, because some individuals out there are not. And I do believe in transparency and having checks and balances in place, and to show you guys I'm accountable. So I want to be straight up with you all. I created this channel something basic, to be thought-provoking information, to share topics that I felt was concerning me at the time, that I wanted to basically break down that it was real and show the validity. But to get back those TDA accounts, the movement a couple years ago that broke out, where people were using their so-called secret account, the numbers from the back of the Social Security card that's attached to your Federal Reserve bank account, I want to say that's not a conspiracy theory. That is real. The Federal Reserve, I believe, in my opinion, it was a major cover-up. It was damage control, but there was things that I know from that event I referred to, I attended, from the private sector, specifically, that was shared, that was relayed. And I even had mentioned, I had contemplated, and I didn't do this, just to give you a heads up, but I had contemplated on going to the authorities, the police. I did talk to people that I know personally, because I was trying to figure out at the time, how legitimate was this. Now, if this was hard to determine, this private clandestine operation that I was part of, the credibility of it, because it was literally what it says, it was private and it was clandestine. A friend of mine actually helped me break, you know, he gave me that terminology, but that was actually used in a TV show that aired some years back called America's Book of Secrets, which I mentioned. You can look that up. I highly recommend, if you can buy the tapes or the DVDs. I think it aired on the History Channel. May have been History Channel 2. You can look up the name. It's no longer in syndication, no longer in air. It's called America's Book of Secrets, but they use that terminology, private clandestine operation. There are things that are real. Everything is not a conspiracy theorist, because there are those who are in the know that will try to dismiss things that they don't want to be brought to light, and that's just inappropriate, you know. And just like there was a lot of lies and things put out, false information regarding those accounts some years ago that people were attempting to access, that does belong to us, that they are fraudulently blocking people from trying to access who are in the know. I feel as though, in my personal opinion, they have enough slaves within the system. Those of us who they had taught the information to, which I'm referring to, I'm kind of speaking in cryptic code, from that organization I attended, as well as other incidences, I felt they were trying to make it too difficult to access those accounts, but yet at the same time telling you you need to study and having to jump through too many hoops. I just felt that's morally inappropriate. As Eric Snowden said, the reason he came out and did what he did because he felt it's immoral, it's inappropriate, and it's wrong. Even Pastor Lindsey Williams talked about his elite friends, and he's a whistleblower some years ago, and he did live, he mentioned when he, if you know the story of Pastor Lindsey Williams, when he lived at the Alaskan pipeline, he said they have a code of ethics that they're supposed to follow. And speaking to the so-called elites, there's a code of ethics, once again, that they were supposed to follow that they violated. And that is why individuals out there decided to go public, and why people have in the past or relayed certain information, they were left with no choice because they decided to do dishonorable things. And I mean, people really found out what was going on, what was happening, they would be appalled, especially a lot of women. So I know women have a tendency in their nature to be more emotional, and if they really found out, and there's some women out there that really know, I've talked to privately behind the scenes, that are just appalled at the evilness, that these wickedness that these people have done, and what they're doing, that they were attempting to cover up these accounts. And people who had big channels out there, such as Mike O'Brien, Harvey Dent, Triple Moore, Extra Light, Willow Green, myself, and others out there, many others, a few others, who had big channels who were explaining this information. Those accounts were real, and what we should have done, I know it was talked about, we were contemplating on filing a class action lawsuit, but Mike O'Brien at the time was trying to check into getting good lawyers because the legal system, judicial system, is so corrupt. I'm not saying that all are like that, but I would like to see a lawyer out there prove to me, or even a judge, that they want to uncover this information, because those accounts belong to us. They're ours. They do exist. But major corporations have been allowed to tap into them and act as intermediaries and access those private accounts, those forms of securities. And you don't have to necessarily have a brokerage license to access these types of things, as it was stated when I was sharing information some years ago. And there was a mole who I remember, who was in that Discord app, because I recognized the name, and it's come out, and I saw her channel, and someone ran a background check on her already, which I believe in the name matched up with what I said, and they were pretty surprised. But because an Extra Light had commented and told me when I shared this with her, she stated I was very observant. So I'm paying attention, and they put out a lot of disinfo out there, a lot of spookism, a lot of propaganda. But I'm here to share the truth, and to share what is actually factual. That is not a conspiracy theory, because remember, theory is something that's theoretical, but there are facts, things that have happened in reality, like how I'm speaking in real time in this moment, this very moment right now. That's reality. You have conspiracy reality, conspiracy facts, things that have already occurred. There's things that have been proven. And I went over numerous evidence. You guys can go back and watch my old videos. I unlocked them. You can share them. I highly recommend, especially the ones I did on the TDAs. You have to connect the dots. You can't be a weekend warrior with this information. You have to dissect it. So when I decide probably to start a Patreon account, because it would help maintain the integrity of this information, I'll be able to go over a lot more things in depth based on the tier system. From what was stated to me, Patreon allows you to utilize the tier system. I would like to do that, because I've had a lot of questions, and I think it would be fair to you all, and that would help alleviate a lot of the trolls out there and moles who don't have good intentions, who are mean-spirited people, I want to say, and many of them are gatekeepers or government shields and wicked people. And you have two parts of the government. I want to say None of my videos have been intended to be anti-government. What I'm more so is anti-corruption. But keep in mind, there's a balance. The universe is based on yin and yang, too, by the way. Just like the body, when it comes to food, you shouldn't be too acidic. You want to balance it out being alkaline. Well, within our government, the people I'm referring to, that's called the deep state or the evil criminal cabal, they're the bad people that we have. But there are good men and women who do have integrity, that want to uphold, and integrity implies honesty, loyalty, trustworthiness, checks and balances, being accountable, being responsible. These are people with integrity, people who are willing to say, I made a mistake, I have a flaw. But pay attention to people who are very wicked, who've done a lot of corruption, done a lot of dirt, but say, hey, there's nothing going on over here, but always want to point the finger at someone else. Just something to think about. So I'm referring to those people. There's a difference. We have good men and women within our government. Ted Gunderson, who was a former FBI agent many years ago, stated this in a speech, and I highly recommend you guys out there look up. That's why I always mention names of documentaries and movies. I've constantly gone over these people in the past. Rest in peace. And he shared this. We have good men and women within our government, but it's the corrupt side. Stay behind networks, they call them. From, you know, a lot of corruption that was going on too. So you have to pay attention to, what do you really want at the end of the day? Do you want socialism? Do you want communism? Capitalism is not perfect. However, with hard work, it allows you to go from nowhere to being famous one day. Because there are those that argue over, was America ever great? That cliche. You know, I was speaking to a friend of mine. We debate a lot. And they had this summit where they invited Candace Owens to, with the rapper T.I. and Killer Mike. And I think it was basically a setup. I think the main person they wanted there to kind of poo-poo was Candace Owens, I think, by the way. And I'm going to give this is kind of my way in. But there's different ways to look at things. I had a cousin who graduated as a school teacher in the Cleveland, Ohio area. I'm not sure. She mentioned to me last time I talked to her, she doesn't really want to teach anymore. I don't think she works in that field. I'll have to ask her what her current job is or career. But she taught for a while, and she told me she took a class in college called philosophy. She was discussing with me some years ago. She said the types of things that I bring up is kind of philosophical. They have books on philosophy. So I look at, when people talk about the MAGA hat, was America ever great? I look at it from another angle. For example, when T.I. asked Candace Owens, was America ever great? I question, yes, there's times it's not perfect. But I question the fact this same America at one time allowed T.I. to go from a street hustler, drug dealer, as well as Jay-Z to go from a drug dealer to a famous rapper, actor, and whatever other business ventures they've gone to. But under socialism, communism, in other countries, this is a historical fact. You can look this up. They will not allow you that. Capitalism might not be perfect, but in comparison to countries with statism, socialism, communism, they would have killed you by then. They killed drug dealers. Once they reach a certain plateau, they wouldn't have allowed that. So the America was great in that sense, to allow you to go from something to nothing. To allow LeBron James, for example, to talk shit to our president of the United States and get off scot-free. And they made a movie some years ago called The Last King of Scotland, based off Idi Amin. He was the dictator over Uganda some years ago, played by the actor Forrest Whitaker. Look it up. If LeBron James did that in that country, he would have been bye-bye. Just using this as an example. You know, in North Korea, these are countries under full-blown communism. China, I heard they arrested people for practicing Falun Gong, which is like a form of Tai Chi, like meditation, you know, that especially helps raise your chakras, your energy, spiritual levels. And other countries, what they're trying to bring here in the United States under these democratic, socialist, communist candidates. Now, there's some things I agree with, like insurance reform by one in particular I can be bipartisan with. Doesn't mean that I co-sign everything one particular person says or does. But as Kanye said, we have the ability, should have the ability to think for ourselves, and independent thought and dialogue, which music artists of the past used to challenge the status quo. and were very political, such as Sam Cooke years ago, Jimi Hendrix, believe it or not, celebrated at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. And there's numerous other famous singers and music artists who were more politically active, but now a lot of them are just trying to get along to go along with the narrative that's being pushed with Hollywood to show, you know, that's fakeness. You know, are you going to be genuine and sincere about your political views? Because some of them behind the scenes are actually Trump supporters. Don't want you to know it, believe it or not. You know, that's a whole nother discussion within itself. Some of them are genius in the way they can use their sense of humor to kind of disguise it, but get you to really think with critical thought process. Just leaving some hints out there, because there's people that talk. And I want to assure you guys too, it's been questioned. I got into a debate with the guy not too long ago. Was on the phone. A friend of mine, I didn't know this, he decided to put me on three-way with a guy in California. And the argument, the debate was, is Trump, for example, is he establishment? And this video, by the way, is like a freestyle open forum. I did kind of go over why I'm coming back, but I kind of wanted to share this information with you guys too, because as you guys know, I do a lot of open forum. That's freestyle discussion where it's open topic. You guys are also welcome to chime in. For the few that are still watching, joining in, appreciate you, but always feel free to chime in if you would like. But just to kind of get back to, I want to let you know, guys know, I had a friend, I was in a conversation. He wanted me, I guess, to meet this guy from California who wanted to debate me about Trump being establishment. And I begged to differ. I said, if Trump is establishment, you know, establishment is like people who are club members, part of secret societies, Masons, deep state. You have Eastern Stars, those are like female secret societies. You have fraternities and sororities, which are at a lower level. I found out that they fall up under the craft, by the way, but there's a pecking order. The different secret societies, you have Bilderberg Group, Club of Rome, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. Some of them get political. Some of these organizations are tied in with the G1, G20 summit. Some of these organizations, you know, they go up to Bilderberg and Davos Group. But just to give you guys a little bit of the political background, how this ties in. So I said, no, he's not establishment, in my opinion. Why would they be trying to remove him, in a sense? Now, he has, he's rolled with people in that category because he's been a billionaire. But the reason I said I disagreed with that, in my opinion, because he declassified the Kennedy files. Some other information already, which I saw through previous presidents had the opportunity to do. And they said most Americans believe that was a cover-up. He also helped declassify, I think, some of the files dealing with 9/11, which they said over half the American people believe was an inside job. This was actual statistics, votes they already took that are highly accurate. Even my own relative, who's a liberal, who I believe voted for Hillary Clinton, admitted that to me some years ago, that she believes they blew those buildings up and it was an inside job by very corrupt people. They actually did surveys. They took polls on this. So I said, if Trump is establishment, if you're a club member, and why would he do that? So to make a long story short, the theories and stuff get outlandish, because this guy said that Trump had been working with the Russians since 1977. He kept trying to say, by me defending this, that makes me a Trump supporter. And I want to let you guys know, I'm not a registered voter. I'm just giving my opinion from the outside looking in. I'm an astute person. I want to say I uphold the process of voting, making yourself heard, but I don't want to be attached to the negative consequences of that contract. So I went to the Department of Elections some years ago and I canceled it, because you do have the ability to opt out. Now, I've had people that told me they didn't know that. Just like with to receive, when debt collectors send you a letter and they tell you, many of you all may not have studied the law. They say this is an attempt to collect the debt. Any information obtained is used for that purpose unless you dispute the validity. Notice when they say dispute, the key terminology, dispute the validity. So they're giving you a leeway to opt out. It's just like with registration. Registration is the difference between recording. You already have the right to vote. You know, they've turned it into a contract, a civil contract under statutory jurisdiction. I already did a video previously where I touched on that, and I did a screen capture where I showed the evidence. And you get facts with me. You don't get lies like over at Virgo Triad's channel. You don't get propaganda. Over here, Dorsey's Resource, you're going to get facts. You get a real person showing their face. You don't get someone like her hiding behind a fake account. And that's the person I was always referring to And she did take a shot at me in some previous videos. She tried to lump me in a category with these other people. Some of the people I mentioned earlier, some I'd never met in person, some I did. But there was information, a lot of stuff she mentioned was inaccurate. And she never shows the face at all, but puts out a lot of propaganda. And a lot of the videos she does. And you guys know a lot of BS. But I'm over here showing my face. You guys see a real person. So just take that into consideration when you're trying to judge whether someone is credible. So to get back, I was having a debate with this guy, and I asked him, what sources do you have? And he was telling me about stuff to look up. I say I would let him know I'm not familiar with that. But I let him know from my end, I have friends, this is a fact, who are former military. And I work, not afraid to show it, I work in security. I had to go through a background check. This means I had to have a clean criminal record. I had to be squeaky clean. Not saying that makes me perfect or whatever, but you guys get the drift. It means I had to pass a drug test. I had to go through those things, but I've also worked for other previous security companies in the past. So this shows credibility. I was telling, I've had friends, people have had secret security clearances. I didn't originally know this, but years later, getting to know these people, they shared information with me. So this is credibility. So I asked the guy, started to question his credentials and started to see he's preaching, talking identity politics. There's a difference between politics and an actual person's personality, character. Learn to separate the two when you want to have a political debate. Many of y'all haven't studied political science, economics, banking. So before you have a debate, you know, you should at least have that under your belt. I'm also college educated. Have an associate's degree, but I took economics, micro and macroeconomics in college, so I can back this up with collegiate colleges, because a lot of people mention their degrees and stuff, but don't show you how it applies to those classes. I let a friend of mine know when we have debates and we relay information to each other, I said, see, man, you see how I'm showing you how those college classes apply to real life, because these people act like they take rank over you. Some of them are our own relatives and friends. That I've seen a lot of those emails. I read a lot of posts, and I do a lot of reading. Like when I get off work, I'll see the main headlines of the news. So I get where both sides are coming from between the left and right paradigm or whatever. But back to this debate I was having about is Trump establishment or not. But that's the reason I disagreed, and there's other reasons why I did not agree with that. And I went over my credibility. So that's something to take into consideration. I want to assure you guys, when I provide information to this channel, when I start my Patreon account, and I will, if I do decide to start it up, give me some time. I don't know how long it's going to take, but big shout out to Currency 365. I watched this video a friend of mine had shared that I didn't know originally, and I appreciate him, and he shared some of my other work, and I have no problem with that. And he gave some tips, some things I wasn't really familiar with. I had looked into Patreon before, but it would help keep down on some of the trolls. And I've looked at some other platforms as well, where their algorithms don't censor like YouTube. Because, you know, YouTube is purposely oppressing information, because the guy that I got into the debate with, when things got heated, he accused me of being a conspiracy theorist, as usual, and says I'm getting my information off of YouTube, which I don't get all my information off of YouTube. By the way, even though I'm back on here, I've done videos. I am a researcher. You can say I do like investigative research. I've also worked with not just former military people. I work with private investigators, detectives, firefighters, EMS, first responders, scuba divers, people in all different backgrounds and skill sets, by the way. And we've had just general conversation. So this shows credibility. So people, when they are lost and they can't match you in the debate, then they'll start attacking your character or things, or saying, he was like, why would people of that regard give you this information or whatever, you know? And I have documentation as well. I can support what I have. That's why once I start the Patreon account, I have a boatload of information where it will be a win-win situation where you guys can donate to me if you decide that you feel the information I'm sharing is worth it. I think it'll be fair, and I can go a lot more in depth. Especially in the highest tier system, I'm thinking about allowing where you'll be able to get a free consultation or contact me, because I've had a lot of people in the past that do recognize the quality of information I provide and have said thank you or want to stay in touch, because there's so many people, and you guys know I'm obviously on a graveyard shift. My time is valuable, I would have to have definitely have to have a tier system, and it would keep down on the gatekeepers and trolls, because those who are serious about this information, they would have to pay for it. And a lot of gatekeepers and trolls and moles out there don't want to go through all the rigmarole. But it would be open to everyone out there. I would not discriminate. It would be diversity to anyone who wanted the information. By the way, black, white, orange, purple, whoever you are, whatever race, you know, it would be open, and I would be able to go a lot more in depth with the information and show the credibility too, and documents and things, if I do decide to start the Patreon account, which I'm seriously considering, because certain things I've been told by friends that I give too much information on YouTube. That's one friend of mine. He moved down south. He told me that. He said, you put out too much good information. He said this, but I said, hey, I'll bring the videos back. But maybe at one time I can redo a lot of things, and I can go more in depth, believe it or not, and answer some of the questions that you guys have out there, because I want thought-provoking, empowering information. And it's helped out. People have told me privately behind the scenes. I have been thanked, and I did a screen capture video to prove that. I could do another one. And big shout out to you guys out there that wished me well when you guys thought I was leaving YouTube. What I want to let you guys know, I'm back. Not sure maybe for how long, but the reason why in particular I do have a problem, you know, kind of with the NDA, non-disclosure, secrecy agreements or whatnot. Now I'm willing to sign one, but it just seems like I've gone through a lot, and it's just not the time right now. And I think the timing was pretty bad, that I should have decided to do it at least before the summer, you know, when I was contemplating back then, because I was on the edge. I was on the fence the whole time, and something said, wait a minute. I backed off, and I said, it's like, if you're not, you know, going to teach the information, when I had already paid lots of money, and I'm still, you know, feeling a certain type of way about that, like the Rich Homie Quan song, you know, certain type of way. I feel a certain type of way about that, and it's not just myself but other people, so I don't want to make this about me. You know, I did share this with other people out there. I expressed my discontent, displeasure. But I didn't say no names, but there's those that do know me personally, that do follow my work, that can feel my frustration. And that's not changing anytime soon. But that's why I came back. I decided to. So you can follow me on Facebook, at Dorsey's Resource, on Twitter, at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on YouTube. As far as with social medias that I'm trying to think of, there's so many out there. Gab.ai, they went through some changes again, by the way. I did create an account on there, but they have a paid version, and they had to do that because they came under attack, of course, from the censorship people. But there's a lot of other social medias out there. I'm also on minds.com as well, and I am on Instagram. I think Dorsey's Resource _2019. I'll have to, I think I have to unlock the Instagram. I ended up locking it up, but I'll unlock it. Or you guys can send me a request. You want to follow me on there. By the way, I hadn't been on there that much, but I had logged in earlier because I was basically, you know, deciding to come back. But I'll probably be trying to move my content or newer information to give you guys an update onto not Instagram, Patreon, and maybe some other platforms. I may go live on a lot more. I was thinking minds.com, because the algorithms and stuff, you know, the censorship isn't as bad as YouTube. YouTube is, they are breaking antitrust laws, by the way. I already went over in the past through torturous interference. When they deplatform certain people, they violated some of the protocol when they've targeted individuals. We're one media organization, and they registered as a public utility, by the way, just the same I found out as utility companies. That's a violation. Where they came out, then they built their platform up, because remember, it was called YouTube, so it was about you and the tube. It used to be about you, but now it's big corporate money. Hollywood has come in. It's no longer about the content creators that built the platform up to what it is today. And that's dirty by YouTube on their part. So yeah, I'm talking trash about YouTube because they deserve it, you know, for what they've done. And it's not just them with their being owned by Google and others, but there's definitely violations of the law and antitrust laws, and they should be broken up as monopolies And that's why antitrust laws were created, to keep checks and balances in place. Like, I believe college athletes should get paid. If colleges make billions of dollars off of them, they use, when Ed O'Bannon, former basketball player for the UCLA Bruins, sued, and I was glad he won his lawsuit, which led to that law being passed in California, to the great work that he did, because the judge had ordered the NCAA to pay a lot of money to Ed O'Bannon's legal fees. You can look this up on Wikipedia. Kudos to him. A lot of people didn't talk about Ed O'Bannon. He played when I was in high school. He won the championship, the tournament, with the Bruins some years ago. A friend of mine just told me he was actually drafted by the Detroit Pistons. I forgot about that. I think he went lower in the draft, like in the second round, because he had got an injury beforehand, but he was supposed to be like a lottery pick or up there in the first round, but dropped because of injuries, and teams don't want to take the risk. But I believe college athletes should get paid, and that's why antitrust laws are in place. Because someone tried to tell me in the past, antitrust laws don't apply to social media giants such as Apple, Google, YouTube, etc., Facebook. No, they should, and they registered as public utilities. They broke the law. That's a fact. There's other information I can go through my previous videos where I talked about that, a certain individual being banned, and I went over credible information in regards. And there might be some repercussions, and there are some lawsuits that are happening behind the scenes. And I want to say to that TDA movement that was some years ago, those of us that are still out there, that was real. And the content creators, we really should have taken legal action, as Mike O'Brien suggested. We all should have teamed up between myself, Harvey Dent, Triple Moore, Extra Light, Willow, that was out there, because that was just dirty what the Federal Reserve was doing to cover this up. And that's why I'm coming back, just to let you guys know. So I've said a mouthful, and I've gone on for quite a while. So let me get back at the plantation once again. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I did give a disclaimer. Dorsey's Resource, once again, you can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. Of course, YouTube, Minds.com, Instagram, Dorsey's Resource _2019. Until next time, thank you guys for joining me. I'm your host, John Dorsey. Peace out.